2, 3,
4,
5,
6.
What is a celebration to you? On many of the obituaries that we read, we see the phrase "a celebration for the homegoing of our loved ones." In New Orleans, Louisiana, there is a true celebration for the homegoing of their loved ones. Here you can see this is a brass band. This goes on in the jazz funeral that happens in New Orleans. These are brass band members of the band, and you can see the jazz umbrellas here on the picture here that they use in the funeral procession. The jazz funeral originated in African spirituals practices and French and Spanish marital sessions. In the jazz funeral, services are still held in the church, as you can see here, but the difference between the funerals that we see every day and the funerals that they practice begins once the body leaves the church. After the body leaves the church, then there is basically the funeral becomes public. The band marches out onto the street. The music is played. It's a very down-tempo beat in the beginning before the body goes to the burial site. It's a very down-tempo beat, and after the body reaches the gravesite, then that is when the beat picks up to a higher tempo. Where you see at this point when the tempo picks up, this is when you see the what they call second line or second lining, which is when people that are not necessarily involved in the funeral, they go on with the line, and from the line they go, they wave handkerchiefs and spin the umbrellas, and they dance in the streets basically. So it is a true celebration for the homegoing. Okay? And another thing that you see here, a problem with this is that some of the Caucasian population that lives in New Orleans, they consider this to be disrespectful, and it's kind of mocking the dead is what they consider. So for that reason, it is not practiced by the entire New Orleans, but in some cases, it is still held for musicians and political figures out there in the area. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are only families and friends allowed at the jazz funerals?
No, ma'am. In this case, you have the second line, like as I mentioned before. They are aware of what type of funeral is going on, so they do. Everybody's accepting of them coming into the funeral to help celebrate the life of the ones that they lost. Any more questions?
Why do you think this tradition is not practiced worldwide?
Being that what we're accustomed to is funeral and grieving, there is actually a lot of people do consider it disrespectful. When you lose someone that you love, a lot of people just like time to themselves to grieve and cry. And in New Orleans, it's not to say that they take death lightly or that they don't care that the person is dying. It's just that they are leaving this earth. They're going to a better place. Basically, they're going home to be with God. So let's celebrate it. They don't have to worry about anything that's going on in the world anymore, and that's how they look at it. But to most people, they would consider it disrespectful because that is not what they're used to.
Does the funeral still have the church involved?
Yes, in the beginning, it's still like a normal funeral. It is still inside the church, as you can see on this picture here. They are inside of a church, so they do still go into the church, whether it's Baptist, Catholic, whatever their religion is. They still do go inside of a church, and then after they leave out of the church, that's when the difference comes into play. It's when they actually hit the streets and they march to celebrate the homegoing of their loved one.